but I can't read, I can't write, I can't spell, and most of the time I don't know my left from my right.
Now here's the thing about me that's a secret that most people don't know. I'm borderline retarded, and I can't read. These books that you're recommending, Goethe. I would pick that up and I would be like, 10 minutes later, I'd be like, what's my favorite song? The ABCs?
I think we're kind of getting off topic. Can you name 10 books?
Keep going back to me. Can you?
No, don't change.
No.
10 books.
You're changing the subject, actually.
10 books.
You're changing the subject,
okay,
actually.
3 books.
Okay. Well, the Game of Thrones series,
It's not a book.
Twilight
I
series.
want the name.
It is a book.
Reading makes you sick, and reading makes you die!
Holy, we got a good one today. He went to get that just for the audio. Do you have the talking gun, by the way?
You know, it's I do have a talking gun, but I have a new talking gun. If you give me just 1 second here.
Oh boy. I didn't even get the fucking graphic up of the rain. Everything feels off. Everything's fucked up right now. How's everyone doing in the chat?
I hope everyone's having a good time. That's really all I can say.
This guy's got the wrong idea. QG.
I wish I knew how to read. No, this is the perfect guy. Welcome to Do You Even Read, the one podcast on the internet where we encourage illiteracy. I am your host, Matthew, also known as the Prudentialist. I am joined by my wonderful Canadian co-host, Dimes. And boy, do we have a show for you this evening. But we have even bigger announcements to make right now. Dimes, do you want to tell the lovely people what we're doing this fall?
Oh, yeah. So we mentioned this at the top of the year, and we've been working on it in the background. I'm committed to doing it at this point. So we're going to be doing a live recording of Do You Even Read? And we have the city in mind. It's going to be Chicago, America's Chicago. And the venue will be announced closer to the date. Nothing's on sale right now. You cannot grab a ticket while supplies last. I'm just letting everyone know to anticipate it. We're still trying to figure out the right book to cover for it. It should be something monumental. There's a few contenders right now.
We have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something that works for a live audience, something amusing. We're not going to be doing a transformation of the world for that one, I don't think. But and I found a venue that I'm excited about, and you're going to hate it so much.
We picked a date, right?
Yeah, what is it? You tell me.
October 24th, Saturday.
Yeah, that's going to be it's going to be something in and around there, but October for sure. Either that weekend or the weekend before, depends on when we lock it in. And then the moment tickets go live, they will be made available to everyone. I've hosted events like this before as a Prudentialist, and so the interest is getting as many people there for a reasonable price. And just we'll record it as well. It won't be a video recording, I don't think, for this one. It's going to be audio. This is because
Dimes does not want to mog me.
Well, also, here's for real though. To do video right, it's going to increase the cost.
It's an absolute pain. I know how it goes getting a good AV guy. It's nuts. But we're really excited for this because this is something that we've talked about doing since the show. Actually, even before the show began, we really did talk about doing we talked about doing a show I think all the way back when we first reviewed What Went Wrong, back when the whole Kanye West thing was blowing up. So I'm really excited. I think that 2026 has been a really fun year so far for me in doing shows live, so I can't wait to do this one.
Yeah, and also every single time I've done an event like this where we've done speaking engagements or whatever it might be, I've had an amazing time. I love doing it. Everyone we get out to attend these things, everyone has such a great time. And so I know the vibe is going to be immaculate for this, because I know you know how it goes with your show and the old Glory Club stuff. I know what it's like for Blood Salad. I don't know what a Do You Even Read audience looks like. I'm expecting a surprising amount of women. I'm expecting a fifth of those women to be black. What say you?
Well, we'll be hosting it in Chicago, so that is a possibility.
It'd be funny if it was all black. It was just fucking
YouTube has been lying to me for almost 7 years of just, here's your demographic. It's like 18 to 35, primarily the Anglosphere. We didn't say who in the Anglosphere. It'll be a good time.
It's all fucking drill teams in there. It's all fucking like 17-year-old black murderers who are just really into our coverage of, what would you call this?
They put our program in like the prison system in part of the libraries. It would be great.
Do you think they do that? They should if they don't. Because everyone's like, oh, what are they going to read in prison? Why are they reading in prison?
What do they do? They just listen to these two idiots.
They should be given podcasts. They should be given an RSS feed because none of them know how to use it.
Like it's like just the like African wing of the prison. They're all like Nation of Islam guys, and they're all listening to Fresh and Fit. Like
they'll fucking all the white sides listening to fucking Nick Fuentes and Fresh and Fit, and all the black sides listening to like Cunt Bot. And fucking Logo Davis.
Turns out Teapot is really all in the like Chicago criminal justice system. Dimes, why did we pick the book that we're reading today?
That's a great question. That's a great question I've never asked myself until now. It was forwarded to me by one of our listeners. Some of the books we cover are just people say you must cover this, and there's one I really
Transformation of the World was one of those books.
Yes, and then there's another one that I really want to cover that Prude has vetoed, and I don't think we'll cover it. And I don't know where or how to cover it. It's the one.
This is the perfect book for you to review with Judas, because Judas will not read it, and Judas will just be like, "Yeah, man, sure, fine. This sounds retarded."
He's not going to read it, and then it's just going to be me. So here's what I could also do: I could read it and shut up. I could read it and go to bed. It's that one where it's about like a Caribbean, and I'm quoting it here, fagotology. And this was published by like Princeton University Press, like a legitimate publisher.
Yeah.
And so I thought that'd be funny and hilarious, but maybe it's not, maybe it sucks.
Well, the last time we covered a major piece of like left-wing literature with the Robin DiAngelo one, someone shared that to some group because the comment section went wild in the live chat about, people who were clearly not our audience tuning in for the first time. And then now we're going to have, I think, either a similar experience. I think that's why you pick these. Is like, well, let's just do like the meme left-wing literature and see what happens. And so this is definitely one. This is the second book we've read written by the fairer sex.
Yeah, I mean, we give it more of a fair shake than any other show you're going to find. And one of the reasons I like to cover this stuff here, especially with you, is because I don't read a lot of this stuff on my own. I don't think most people feel compelled to do that, but it's something like White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. It's cited by people. It's quoted. No one on our side of things ever really... You hear about it. You hear about all this stuff, and you look at the cover or a screenshot or a quote, and you assume what it's about. But I don't know. I want to get into their discourse. What are they saying about us? And, how many people actually read these works of feminist literature, even back during the Gamergate days when everyone was about anti-feminism, and they would talk about the third wave versus the second wave versus the first wave. But how many people actually read, Andrea Dworkin?
At this point, I think Gio is the only person who references Andrea Dworkin in any major capacity.
Look what it did to him. Look what the ravages it wreaked on our good friend Gio. This is a fucking polluted man, a broken man. But
this is why you don't read. This is why you don't read.
Behold.
It was really funny. So I had a conversation with the driver who was taking me to a certain studio a couple of weeks back, and he was asking me like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I run a book review podcast, and I write and I do other things." And he's like, "Oh, well, what kind of books have you covered?" And I was like, "Oh, things like spinal catastrophism and white fragility." And now I get to add this book on there. He did give me a book recommendation, which I think we're going to have to eventually do, which was called Sigmund Freud and the Mystical Jewish Tradition, which I'm kind of stoked to read. But no, so I think for this will be interesting because you are right. I had wrote an essay a while back called Timeline Catastrophism. So there's your meme, everybody. And I think that with that being said, so much of I think since Twitter's been bought out by Elon, discourse has been swapped out for brand management. And now it's like the transformation of the timeline has been less discursive because there used to be really great avenues and people were shitting on me for like, oh, well, video essays aren't a real, way to transmit ideas. It's not serious. And it's like, well, if you remember what it was like 10 years ago or even 8 years ago, the right's championing of ideas and intellectual arguments were in the format of video essays. And there are a few guys who still do it, obviously, like Dave Green's one of them, More Goth's Review and others. And it's just like that was the premier way of information transfer on the right for quite some time. Now, obviously, that's decreased. There's not a lot of book posters anymore. You have to actually go looking for it. We're not really aiding you in that process of being book posters because this is what we're reviewing. Sorry to hear that. But as Dimes did say, I think we're the only ones, and the online right in general, are the only ones who actually give leftist literature a fair shake. More so than academics or left-wingers who are begging you to read theory. Because like there was a great tweet today everyone was mocking where they're like, I'm begging you to read Marx, I'm begging you to read Engels, I'm begging you to read Piketty and, Kropotkin, I'm begging you to read theory, everyone. And everyone's, of course, mocking it, rightfully so, because you've heard this thing before. But like, I guarantee you that leftist has not read theory. And even if they say that they do, it's just enough to pull a catch-22 on some chud that's like, well, I've read Marx. And it's like, well, have you read Das Kapital? And it's just like, well,
I was
no.
going to say, the only people who've read all of those things are far-right schizos.
I was about to say, yeah, like this side of things really is the only people, this only camp that actually reads this stuff. Like it to a point where our coverage of spinal catastrophism has been reposted and broadcasted by the publisher of the book. So again, I think they're in for a surprise on who we are, but this is what we do.
Can I just say this? I go back to spinal catastrophism. I was thinking about that just the other day, and it was an unironic way. I was thinking about the spine. I was thinking about the verticality of the spine, and just thinking that there's something about that. Yeah, and I don't like the conclusion it came to, but I understand the germ of the idea that made that investigation so compelling, if you really think about it. And of all the books we've read, I still don't like Cyclopedia, but I don't know. I think that one became a meme for a reason. And I think we were fair, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But just to your previous point, I just wanted to mention, no one who was a member of BreadTube, that political milieu, had read Conquest of Bread by Kropotkin. It's only like your favorite Nazis read it, and that's it, right? But if you did read it, I bet you would go. If you actually sat down and read Capital by Marx, you might come away with that not being as vehement a communist as you were going in. Like if you read it and take it seriously, if you read leftist literature, if you read Althusser, if you read Zizek, like if you read all these people, like you'll come away not even giving a shit about the economy. Like you won't even care about any of that stuff anymore, which is ironic. But yeah, I don't know. In a sense, that tweeter was right. Like, yeah, just read, because if not that, then what the fuck are you doing? And that's why that there's the headline saying that, is it Cuba or Venezuela I think it was Cuba embracing more capitalistic policies, and then there was communists who were saying, look, this is actually a good thing if it's on the side of the people. I mean, you don't know what you are. You don't know what you're advocating for. You have just kind of a general anti-whiteness and anti-colonialist streak, and then you like iconography from the early 20th century. That's it. That's all you fucking are. And like drugs and skateboarding and shitty comic books. You know what I mean? Like it is in every.
There was a point where it all died, where there was a distinct turn of events in 2016, 2017, where the only literature that you needed to understand the current moment was, Harry Potter. Because every person in a pink hat was telling you that they're Dumbledore's army or that they are the Resistance, and it's just like, and that's where the meme came from. Like, read another book.
I'll tell
And
you
here we
this,
are. We have read another book.
I've never read Harry Potter, and my wife has never seen Star Wars, and I credit that to our marriage lasting.
So true.
I
May I be
think,
blessed.
yeah, I think if you should be able to unread shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know by what process you would, but it seems like we would have that by now. Like memory deletion should be a thing, and it's not going to be women deleting their rape memories. I guarantee you that, and that's what this book will get into, I'm sure. But more than anything, I think it'd be mostly people deleting their media misadventures.
I think people would also be deleting every. Actually, I take that back. They wouldn't. I think that people would selectively delete memories, but they're still going to keep the things that keep them up at night. Like when a man thinks about an embarrassing moment from 10 years ago, he's going to cling on to that.
I'm getting the comments that these guys are great. Are they both gay? Sounds like a Blood Satellite fan in here.
It sure does. I hope they do that to you guys.
I was going to say, your favorite Nazis, wasn't that Ray William Johnson's music group?
Yeah, it was.
He
No, it was who was the guy who had the Punch a Nazi parody video? Who's now a total Chris Ray Gun? That's who it was.
Going from Big Ben here about the book in question. This book was nightmarish and nauseating and gave me flashbacks to reading about mummy parties 15 years ago.
I was telling Dimes this at the beginning. I guess now that we've spent the obligatory 15 minutes to pass the censors, but we, you know how when you look at certain TV tropes, he wants a way to unread something. I do, Jay Ford, I do. A baseball bat is right there. So is the talking gun, actually. I could do that. I've always thought like the final show I ever do before I formally retire, I just want to like play a clip of like a loud gunshot MP3, and then everyone is left on a cliffhanger, and then like all accounts just get deleted. Like that's the way I'm probably going to do it. Like I'm going to tweet the whole Spider-Man throwing his costume away. We'll play the gunshot.wav file, and then we'll leave. It'll be great. But as I was telling Dimes earlier, it's really funny to think about how when you think about certain TV tropes or movie tropes or Marvel millennial writing, and how it's ruined everything, or how even an anime, like you have the anime protagonist in an isekai or whatever, who thinks that like he has the master plan and he narrates it to himself, so you, the audience and listener, knows what's going on or what he's thinking. I see a lot of that coming from this. Like there's a certain writing style in her book that I have now seen in leftist literature. And I know she's not the origin point of it, because she was born in 1966. Like there are people before her who've written very similarly, but you're going to notice a very Pacific Northwest, Portlandia style of parody in terms of how she's writing and speaking that just doesn't disappear at all whatsoever. And I think that it's sort of important to keep that in mind, because it's nauseating. But this is the author. She was born in 1966. She is still with us as far as I know. She has written 3 books, which of course is this one. She wrote Autobiography of a Blue-Eyed Devil, My Life and Times in a Racist Imperialist Society, which sounds really familiar to our time, covering White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, where it's a white woman kind of covering what it was like to live in a pretty nice society before being told that that's bad. And then, of course, she recently wrote in 2010, so not really recent, it's been 16 years, Rose, Love in Violent Times. And she's a public speaker. She lives in the Pacific Northwest. She's still around. So she's out there and about doing things, supporting various groups like that. So, but she was big in the resistance era of 2016, 2017. So it's not like this has gone away, but she's still around.
This is something that I was thinking of as I was reading it, because I don't know much about her. I was looking, aside from her autobiography, there's not much of a biography online. There's not much written about her. There's a couple of interviews here and there, but I wanted to know a bit of her background, because to me, and I'm not trying to make an anti-white woman argument here, and we didn't do that with Robin DiAngelo. I think it was very sad what was happening to her, that she was just kind of an old fuddy-duddy white lady who really wanted black friends, and she kept stepping on rakes her entire life, and they don't like her black people do not like Robin DiAngelo, and she pays them money to hang out with her. Same thing with Inga Muscio, whatever.
Muscio, I have no idea.
Muscio, yeah. Like I'm looking at that, I'm like, what subgenre of bitch is that? Like if you told me Hispanic or Aztec, yes. If you told me Icelandic, yeah. Also, I don't know. Why not? That's a strange sort of name to have, and so. But to me, as we're reading this, just keep this in mind that she spends the entire book writing. I don't want to say writing black, but that's just the thing. If she knew,
I would actually say it's writing Tumblr.
Yeah, it's that it's
if you want to know where Tumblr speak comes from, I feel like it's this.
But it's a lot of like almost sounding bluesy too, and then extra cursing when it doesn't need to be.
Have you ever? I mean, and I don't know if it was a popular thing in your university days because I know there's like a decade between us. But was spoken word ever a thing that you saw on like your college campus or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, hell, I performed at a slam poetry.
Okay, well, we are never going to beat the right wing theater kid allegations, but okay, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's how she writes. Like she's at a slam poetry contest, and this is something she's going to say out loud.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, question: would you guys cover the Scum Manifesto? Interesting question, because I don't know how.
Ironically, this Geo has been trying to get us to review it on DA for about a year and a half now, and I've always been ambivalent because it's just like I can't really say what I want to say on certain platforms.
Yeah,
but also like it is important to cover these sort of seminal thoughts. No pun intended there, but like you kind of have to understand where these people are coming from. I think at the ideological root. Because like the Scum Manifesto, I've read like all the parts that everyone likes to quote about men being inferior or genetic accidents, and it's just like, okay, her life is well known.
But you know what's interesting? It's like how seriously, and I'm asking genuinely, how seriously is that Scum Manifesto taken by feminists, or is that just something that people like us share amongst each other? And the reason I ask is because we've reviewed manifestos before, and I wouldn't even call it a mixed bag. I'd say most of them suck. Most of them are just uninteresting.
Most manifestos, right and left, are pretty bad.
Yeah, like, and I really mean uninteresting and derivative and just what I mean, or or you agree with it and it's just yep, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think historically, I think Scum is up there alongside Ted Kaczynski and someone's book called My Struggle. I think that those are some well-known manifestos that have stood the test of time in terms of their historical impact. Because, I mean, let's face it, feminism has devoured a good chunk of the gender relations in this country. I mean, women are getting more liberal, men are getting more conservative just by default. And so now the gender war is literally we just hate each other, but also we're going to engage in situationships for 3 to 5 years and waste our most fertile years together by not doing anything productive with it. And so on top of all that, I think that the top 5 men, I just named you 3, I'm not.
That's the thing, like I the last one, and we're trying to, walk between the raindrops of the censors here. I wouldn't even call that a manifesto. That's an autobiography too.
Yeah.
But that's because that one is so good. Like manifesto, like even the Unabomber Manifesto. I don't love the Unabomber Manifesto. I haven't read his second book, but he spends half the
I've
first one
read
just
quite a
complaining
bit
about
of his
liberals.
writing, so I have a different opinion because I think that there's a lot that Ted gets right that also he's so vehemently wrong.
You're the one we covered on the show. There's a couple, but one of the more infamous ones was, remember that black guy who didn't even do a shooting? He was going to, but he was schizophrenic.
And he was stopped, yeah. And he's the college professor.
And he wrote one, and it was
with the N-word included, yeah.
Like something like 50,000 times.
Yeah, it was not. I mean, that's the thing. If you're writing a quote-unquote manifesto, odds are you're not in the mental capacity to write an effective argument.
The amount of times the N-word, even for someone like me, a little much.
Well, thankfully, that word is not in this book.
But also, let me just say, once you do read it, like you hear something like that, just like most manifestos, like, oh my god, there's a new trans school shooter manifesto. We have to read it. It sucks. Like you read it, it's boring. You make it. You can get maybe, in my view, 45 seconds of content, and the rest of the time, it's just like it's pathetic and whiny.
It's like ChatGPT, please, Grok, Claude, please summarize.
Yeah, so some people can draw that out to like an hour 45, 2 hours, or like reading some of like weird lesbian romance pulp novels or something. Like I can't do it. I can't figure out how to make that worth people's time. Like most of the time, it just fucking sucks. So anyway, top 5 manifestos. I got a few coming out.
Well, let's actually dive into the book because I feel like we've gone through enough of the audience's time.
You think so?
There's an hour and a half of I'm never gonna get back of my life reading this book, so I think it's just nice to not waste their time.
Yeah. Let's just jump right into it. So there's lots of notes, and each chapter is a real treat. It's a real treasure.
Just in how it's written. And I think we're gonna try our best to take it at face value.
At the outset, let me just say this. There's a whole chapter just on menstruation. I'm going to skim that one. We'll see what Prude's got in mind for that. But there's some stuff that's just gross. You can't really talk about a bloody vagina that much. I can get 15 minutes out of that, but I can't get you 200 pages. And also
that can get you a good 5 minutes of crowd work.
Yeah. See, like this right here, we're gonna say the word cunt a lot in this. If that word bothers you, I don't know what to tell you. You haven't listened to the show before, and once you really need to see it on screen because we're gonna be reading it and you're gonna say, no way, it's written that retarded. But subtitle, A Declaration of Independence is the second edition. So the one you're seeing is their preferred version, and so.
Published in 2000 and actually 1998. The one that we have is from 2002.
It kind of has sort of like a 1998 vibe to it, like the cover.
Yeah,
like it seemed like a whole album cover or like
now you live in a world where we were just talking about this before we went live on the air, where you have. If you walk in any Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, or I don't know what's the chain bookstore up in Canada.
Indigo.
Okay, so you walk into an Indigo, you walk into a Books A Million, you walk into a Barnes and Noble, and you know that everything it's all about trends. It's bright colors with contrasted color titles, and there's still a boatload of that millennial writing of like how to unfuck your life or how to stop giving a shit and overcome, followed by the toys, the little knickknacks, the Moleskine, journals, and then of course all your like stuff for dream catchers and burning sage, and then contemporary stuff might be there. It may not be what you're looking for, and then of course there's all sorts of toys and anime and figurines and Legos. And this book is definitely from before that time. So in one way, it's almost refreshing. But on the other hand, this is also, I think, something for us to consider when looking at where we are, 20 plus years later.
Yeah, here's a good question. What does the flower represent? The anus? I know how you could be confused by that imagery. I believe it represents the vagina. And this book is like, and I was saying this to Prude beforehand, the feminist women from the feminist bookstore from Portlandia. It's like if they wrote a book. It's almost so laughably obtuse that it's the type of woman that calls her vagina her yoni.
It's delightfully crunchy.
Yeah, they talk about the divine feminine. They talk about just vagaries.
The goddess.
Yeah, goddess. Herstory instead of history. These are the types of people.
Women
that
is spelled with a Y.
Yeah, it's very witchy. In fact, she advocates for,
she openly advocates for witchcraft.
Yeah, what we would call, bitch Satanism, but they would call they call it all kinds of stuff throughout the book. Let's just
primarily magic, yeah.
Yeah, cunt is which is, again. I just wanted to start with this by saying it's so funny that when you got guys on our side they talk about penis worship. I've seen that advocated before on Substack of all places. You got the Bronze Age pervert guys who are worshiping like young virility, but then there's guys who just say we should build penis statues everywhere. I reviewed that article on Substack, but that's seen as like a fringe, ridiculous perspective to have. But that's a good portion of feminists. Like what would I say? 75% of feminists, like, they worship the vagina as a godhead, right? That's not uncommon with these people, and it's across generations. And it's just as bad as we think we might have it with, the red pill manosphere. Yeah, there's some kooks and some cranks in there, but you really need to understand how utterly insane feminism is, even in like the kind of hokey mainstream side. Like, imagine worshiping your own dick. That seems like an odd thing to do. You would understand if someone thought you were strange for doing that. That's like, at least one person listening has an aunt that does that. You know what I mean? Like, has a shrine to her gash. Anyway, let's go here. Cunt is a necessary book, one of the most important books in print today, not only for bio and trans women. Oh, that's great. Do you think, did bio woman take off, do you think? I don't think that was.
Well, I think we kind of know how it did take off, because we have cis women.
Yeah. Like biological women, and then this other thing over here.
That's the phrase that the TERFs took, was biological women. And that became the definition that you see TERFs, and I know Carl Benjamin's friendly to them, where he's like, the definition of woman is like adult biological female. Stud stack. That's a good one.
And it's important not only for those whose cunts and other body parts or lives have been scarred by the deathly culture in which we find ourselves immersed. That doesn't sound right. The deathly culture? This sounds like a dumb bitch wrote this. Anyway, when you count rape survivors, domestic violence survivors, those who love those survivors, which, okay, can we just stop there? I love that those three are ranked the exact same. It's like someone who's raped, and then the guy who knows about it. The guy who's like,
I'm pretty sure this is more about allyship, but sure.
The guy who goes there.
I can't believe that this is Mr. President. There's a second podcast where you have to play the straight guy.
Look, I thought I was going to play the straight guy for this one.
No, apparently not.
We have to preempt the chat here. We are both straight men, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, so rape survivors, wage slaves, which means people who work a job.
Oh, people like us.
People who work for cash, mind you. Survivors of public or private education. So rape, people who work a job, and then people who go to school.
People who got a degree.
People who went to a school. I love when women write. I love it. Everyone says women.
This is incredibly depressing, because like you can read something like this, and then you can read Self-Made or Self-Image by Tara Isabella Burton, which is a really good book, and it's just like the plane or the spectrum or the divide between quality writing and then this. It's depressing.
Yeah, this, by the way, anyone who's ever wanted to write a book or thinks that maybe their Substack hasn't taken off yet, read this and realize this isn't its second printing from a fairly serious publisher. This bitch is going on book tours with this while you just
I will laugh, because I would laugh really hard if this one somehow got her attention and she finds out.
Catastrophizing trivialities. Oh, I love that.
That's good. Well done. Well done.
Already better than this entire book. All right, so, and then I'm just going to skip ahead to page 17 here. Okay, what about cunt? You're gonna what's up with this fucking cunt thing everyone's talking about? Hi, what's up with this cunt thing? Cunt is very arguably the most powerful negative word in the English language. I can think of another.
No, emphasis on the American English language, because it does not hold the same connotation in Britain, New Zealand, or Australia. I don't know about Canada. You're a little closer to us, so your language for English, I think, has unfortunately been poisoned by us. But it's I've heard not from this woman. I have heard other feminists say that this is the N word for women.
Well, because I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking, I can think of another word.
Yeah, that one will actually get you killed.
There's one of these books. I mean, I can think of, if I go out in the street and call a woman a cunt, she will marry me. But there's a few words that I can go out and
There's some
say.
Dimes lore there that you inadvertently dropped.
Yeah, I don't know if this works on Zoom or
And
women,
that,
because
kids, is how I met your mother.
I feel, honestly, like this is unk shit. I get, like, people roll their eyes when I start telling them, like, it's different now, Dimes. I get it. But have you tried, like just being really, really mean to women all the time? But, like, outside, not just online. Like, just do what you're doing, but do it in a police station. There's lady cops. There's more lady cops than ever before. And all of you kids
You're
are
gonna
into
advocate for that after what happened in Montreal?
Yeah, I mean, because that's kind of hot. Getting shot in the head and being Jewish.
Jesus.
Look, he doesn't even know how to play swimming. He's not good at it. Is the thing. Is Prude's as nuts as bananas as the rest of us, and here he is, straightening his tie, trying to keep it in line, saying he doesn't.
Actually, it's like 98 degrees where I'm at in Texas, and I have the AC on, and it has not kicked in yet. So I'm actually sweating through a white T-shirt and a pair of basketball shorts because you don't show your face, so I can look like a total slob right now. I'm in a white T-shirt. I should have been in a wife beater for this stream, but I don't own any of those because I'm not Italian. But
you have to keep muting this because I'm similarly sitting here in, like, the last scene in Deer Hunter. Also hot, but like a different sort of vibe, unfortunately.
And it's funny because the talking gun is a revolver. It's like, oh man, I could be Christopher Walken right now.
See, look, he says he doesn't like stories about getting shot in the head, and here he goes. He loves it. So we're talking about cunt being the most negative word in the English language. Except for some friends who know about this book, no one calls me a cunt to communicate what a cool and sublime human being they think I am. Of course, you, dear listener.
I'm just thinking of the Penguins of Doom intro from that Tumblr screenshot that went on 4chan.
Yeah, well, but yes, but then you read that saying, "Oh, this is a woman that gets called cunt a lot." Like when the way she phrases
but it's like being in a bubble, and again, very apt that this like ovum looking thing is on the page, but like it's the things that we call each other,
Yeah, I guess here's what I think her world,
because again, like it's the old, I mean, it's the apocryphal adage about that one university professor is like, I don't know how Nixon won because like I don't know anyone who voted for Nixon. And of course, she's talking about like her job at the university campus. Like this woman is in a very specific environment. She's going to live in a bubble.
But she's getting called cunt all the time, not because they think she's cool. They're calling her. She might be getting called a cunt all the time because people are annoyed at her. I can believe that. She was well known where she's at. I imagine she probably got a lot of protest. She's like Robin DiAngelo getting called a honky every time she walks in the room. She doesn't love it, but she actually can't say anything about it. Now, shall we shed some more light on her relationship to this word? Okay, so she said, I love this. This is why I wanted to put it at the top. I came across the power of cunt quite accidentally. After writing an article for a newspaper, I typed in word count and left out the O. My editor laughingly pointed out the mistake. I looked at the two words together and decided word cunt seemed like a nice title for a woman writer. As a kind of intra-office byline, I started typing out word cunt instead of word count on all my articles. Highly inappropriate, highly unprofessional. Anyway, the handful of people who saw hard copies of my work reacted strongly. After explaining my reasoning to editorial assistants, production magis, proofreaders, and receptionists, I started wondering about the actual decontextualized word of cunt. So here's a woman who's working in a reasonable place, and everyone is she's known as the word cunt. And then, in many ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same. She spent her whole life just being a word cunt. What do you think about
Oh,
that,
my.
Prude? Look at it. Look at him. He's fanning himself with one of those Japanese hand fans. He doesn't know what to make of this.
I don't actually have one of those, but I was thinking of like a Southern belle who's like overheating in her corset circa 1885. But there you go.
So she goes, as you're starting to see, you're seeing a trend of like her. She is a lesbian, but
No,
okay,
she is not, because this woman admits to having an abortion, and she had a boyfriend.
no. This is what I'm saying. There is no such thing as lesbians, because every lesbian, I've known a few in my life. Every lesbian I've ever known had a history not only of sleeping with men, but also sometimes being pretty slutty about it as well. So, like,
I do recall that famous sort of article. I think it was in like New York Magazine, where they're like, "I'm a lesbian, but I just slept with my male roommate." Like,
yeah,
this is during lockdowns.
that's the thing. So she's a lesbian, but she's a political lesbian. So what I find with these types is they come to everything late, and they come to everything very profoundly. And so, like, their lesbianism is a political act. I don't think there's a way to separate politics from lesbianism, and I'm not trying to get into a real thing here, but I think you could probably be apolitically male gay, but I don't think you can be apolitically female gay. It's all fucking intertwined. And then it goes hand in glove with magic and everything like that. Like it's if you ever talk to these people or see them hang out amongst themselves, and they're getting more comfortable being themselves in the mainstream discourse, you'll see like they're all into fucking kooky shit. They're all witchy. They're all like mystical in some way. They're all into crystals and shit. And so then
Ironically, this is my mother's favorite word when dealing with other women, in describing really terrible, unkind, uncourteous behavior.
yeah, but I think it's important.
So
to
on
also,
one hand, like, yes, it is like I think it is the woman's word more than it. I think because men will default to the usual derogatory or apt however you want to call it. I'm trying to be polite. Men will resort to saying things like bitch or whore or whatever. Most of the time when men are getting really frustrated over a woman, maybe this word comes out. But in my own lived experience, since this is what this book is really emphasizing on, is lived experience, is I've heard more women use it than men. And I think it is a byproduct of a lot of intrasexual competition and the inter-women dynamic than I think it has more to do with that. On one hand, yes, this is a word that men will use to describe things, or it will just be reduced to women being reduced to a whole. But Oz, I'm so glad your tablet is broken. And all that to be said, that for the rest of this book, this is going to be the usual things that you've heard out of a lot of leftist literature, which is that language has power. Language has evolved to reflect the power dynamics of time. The power dynamics are innately patriarchal. And by trying to reappropriate this word, we can decouple ourselves from patriarchy and live a world where men do not play the dominant role in society, and women can engage in a communal culture of self-care. But as Dimes and I will look at later in this text, that sort of quote-unquote communal culture of self-care and trying to bring women into this lifestyle is just basically grooming.
Yeah, and that's one of the most shocking parts of the book. But just to underscore what I was saying, like everything about this lifestyle in particular, the female lesbian lifestyle, is by choice. I'm not trying to say that any form of homosexuality is not a choice, but this one, like, it seems like more of a deliberate choice. It seems more made up. It seems more aggressive. It seems more insulting. It seems more just like nonsensical. And it's the sisterhood is only there to just keep reaffirming it as a move, a truly satanic move against civilization, because there's no other reason for it to exist. There's not a lot of. I can't think of a cool lesbian. I can't think of one. Every lesbian you think is cool, give it 10 years, and they hag max like you've never seen. So let's see. This is the type of shit that they write. Let's get into this. So let me just make sure I got the right here.
Sure.
Famous cunts of history. Yeah. Okay. Like right here. Cunts are not important to women because they are the very fount of our power, genius, and beauty. Rather, cunts are important to men because they generate profits and episodes of ejaculation and represent the precise point of vulnerability for keeping women divided and thus conquered. See, and this, I just want to connect this to an earlier point you're making. Like, what is it about this word that women say cunt is? It's the worst word you can call a woman. Well, why? Because across the pond, cunt is just what you call a man who smokes too many cigars. It's just they got their own fucking rules over there, right? But like it is made up. Like your offense at that word is regional. It's provincial. Like it's just made up. It's actually no different than calling a man a dick. It's calling a person their genitals. Every argument they can make that it reduces me to a sex organ. Yeah, have you called a man a dick before? You probably did it 5 times today, you hoe. You know what I mean? Like, or they're calling a man an asshole or something. Like, if you break it down logically, there is no reason why you should be this offended. What it means is an especially large bitch. It's just a step above bitch. And ask any woman, ask your foid, ask your betrothed, how many bitches do you know? If she says less than 5, she's a liar, and you break her fucking legs. Every woman knows bitches. How many? And you pointed this out. More women call other women cunts. Maybe that's anecdotal evidence, but I agree with that. I bet most men would agree. So there's no confusion about whether or not cunts exist. It's just this thing women do, I find, where they know all these bitches, but they can never be one. Like they're the pick me amongst other women. But I'm like, if that's your starting point, like cunt is the worst word in the world, which means it must connect to something that is profoundly important. It's like, no, maybe it's just it's like a dick and balls. Like it's just it serves a very, very important purpose, which by mythologizing it, you betray that, because how many fucking abortions did this bitch get? We're gonna get to that soon. We shall discuss. But like for the types of women, the bio women, the birthing persons who attach all of this metaphysical significance to this, they just love blasting it with chemicals and scraping out, body parts from it. It's a fucking atrocity machine down there when they're not saying that it's God. Or maybe that is it. The atrocity machine between their legs is God. And you wonder why we call it. You wonder why we did what we did to witches. Well, we didn't go fucking far enough because we're reading books like this, aren't we? We just failed. We failed at solving the witch question in society. And now we got this bitch going on stage gesticulating with her fucking fucked up deer teeth. Anyway. So, cunts are not important to women because of this or that. Okay, here we go. History, the media, economic structures, and justice systems have led women to the understanding that delighting in a love affair with our cunts will get us no further than Sitting Bull had he opted to have a passionate love affair with the 7th Cavalry, which of course he did not. Yeah, I bet you looked it up, didn't you? When should Sitting Bull...
I'm sure it's been written and you can find it probably at your local bookstore.
This isn't some kind of lit, you fucking cackling hags got your hooks around. Why should women love our cunts? They too consistently represent the undoing of our people. The main contention here, of course, is that the 7th Cavalry did not reside between Sitting Bull's legs. Here is a woman that got lost in her own metaphor. She's got all jumbled up. She's clumsy. She's all topsy-turvy. The only difference is that, the 7th Cavalry is not Sitting Bull's vagina, bitch. What are you talking about? No, she has not had a man in her life to tell her to be quiet. Not abuse her. Not hip check her through a window, tried and true and proven tactics. But, just shish. She's never been shooshed, so she can write something like that. And then a publisher, another bitch, another fucking lady, said, just run it through. Just made the gesture, just wheeling her hand. Yep. Print. No editor. No one edited this. There's not a. There's
Well,
not
there was an editor. This went through the usual publication process. This is not a self-published, straight to Amazon KDP thing. Like this
This is spiritually unedited. This is, I can't.
Oh no, this is definitely a stream of consciousness. Like this is very similar to what you and I described with Robin DiAngelo, where this is a heavily predicated auto-ethnographic expression of being a white woman in a society that she finds herself at odds with, and instead goes through a different path to live her life as a political rebel and as a feminist. And I mean, we get to it, and I'm gonna take the wheel here for a second, because like you're gonna see this immediately right afterwards, where we're now talking about what it was like to get her period. So like, we're going there, everybody. We're going there. So, you know, she's talking about, of course, the infamous period movie. So this is your basic sex education, usually around 4th or 5th grade. Both men and boys, or boys and girls, are going to get separated. They'll go over all sorts of things. This is what happens in public school. And so, of course, you know, they watch she just calls it the period movie.
So what page?
This is page 31. We're not too far ahead. And
let's just be clear. The section is called Blood and Cunts.
Oh yeah, you know, I feel. Wasn't there just a recent movie called Blood and Guts that just came out? Neither here nor there. We'll carry on here. And so basically, you know, she says that they watched this film, and she says, to date, it is the most intellectually impaired film I've seen, taking into account the combined fatuity of Basic Instinct and Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I like that that's a movie she hates. A cartoon of a female form demonstrated how this dot in your head travels down to your cunt and makes you bleed. The doctorly sounding male narrator insisted that we do not take baths or exercise during this special time, but be sure to keep it spotlessly clean with lots and lots of soap and showers, because menstruating girls tend to stink up a room if they're not completely at one with personal hygiene.
Where's the lie, by the way?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Married men know. He also informed us that any pain or discomfort we might feel resided in our heads and had been collectively imagined by womankind for thousands of years. I can see an objection to that. We were told.
Do you think society's gotten worse since we stopped showing young girls videos where a doctor comes in and says, "Clean your stinky hole"? Like, I just don't think how things have improved since we stopped doing that.
Yeah, well, we've also expanded upon it, because now we can have boys and men and girls bathrooms. So I mean, just, you know, everything stinks now. So we were told we were told anything about how our uteruses are almost exactly like the moon, the shedding their linings, growing new ones, and shedding all over again. Did the period movie teach us once?
Can we just rewind?
The moon.
This is what. Just let's
the really, lunar. I mean, this is the lunar feminine has been a part of.
Because she's saying like it's obvious. Were we told anything about how our uteruses are almost exactly like the moon? See, I just. Again, the driller. Our uteruses are like the moon.
Well, I don't know if you noticed this. There was a report that came out a couple of years back. I want to say it was like 2022, where it's basically saying since the advent of smartphones, because of the blue light and everything like this, women have been completely disrupted in terms of their natural cycle, because it is kind of predicated on the lunar cycle. This is why you get the lunar feminine thing has been very present in a lot of Western literature throughout fucking ever. And so our again, not to pull a Ted K on you, but like in the Industrial Revolution, its consequences have also did not make it easier. But
let me ask you this: would you say that being into the moon, being a moon gal, is a red flag?
Yeah. Look, I am not, despite my name. That I have taken on slightly one as an homage to my friend Dave Green. I'm not a prude man. I'm not a prudent man at all. I have a very terrible philandering past before, you know, almost dying and getting right with my creator and everything else. But like, those are red flags. Those are also things that would tell me that this is going to be a good time, but you don't want to stick around for very long. But that's part of, again, the consequences of the sexual revolution that's taken place, and I don't endorse it. But yeah, so there you go. Did the period movie teach us one thing about how miraculously cool and sublime the human's body reproductive system is when you're a girl? Fuck no. And again, there's this Tumblr-esque language that I'm hearing in 1998 that reminds me of a lot of Andrea Dworkin. All I truly gleaned from this experience was that my cunt was a yucksville. The reason I had to sit in that stupid cafeteria watching some hack nurse show me how to safety pin a 3-mile wad of cotton to a pair of brief underpanties even my grandmother wouldn't be caught dead in in, while the other half of the 6th grade population was out in the sunshine playing softball. This was the first formal instruction in my estrangement from my cunt within a lifetime's barrage that I can consciously recall. A lot of this is now going to be really autobiographical. But carrying on in the spring, and I'm on page 34. I'm moving further down. In the spring of 1995, I had the momentous honor of interviewing Barbara G. Walker at her home in New Jersey. Among many other things, she told me about menarche parties women in her community have had for the newly menstruating. Miss Walker described a menarche that she attended. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. Forgive me. She attended a few months prior to our interview. That's one of those words that I've only ever read in literature and never had to say out loud. The honoree wore a red dress. Her mother made a beautiful red. Menarche.
Like menarche sounds kind of cool, maybe. Biblical.
Menarche, I feel like just kind of sounds like a title. The honoree wore a red dress. Her mother made a beautiful red cake from her. A bunch of women, young and old, brought her red gifts wrapped in red paper. The older women talked about the symbolism of the moon and the miraculous joys of both bleeding and not bleeding anymore, while the younger women who hadn't yet started to bleed duly expressed their reverence for the honoree and enthusiasm about starting their periods. I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't you feel like a total princess if your mom or whoever did that for you? Wouldn't that put a whole new slant on bleeding from the get-go? I was deeply moved by Miss Walker's account. Miss Walker, interesting. But in all honesty, I must acknowledge my bittersweet envy. My mom's a dang smart lady, but I admire her above and beyond all women on the planet. But it was a bummer to realize that if she hadn't been so busy dealing with the social constraints of single motherhood, they were, hey, no father in the picture.
I just love. We really need to just set up camp at this story here. The honoree wore a red dress. The mother made a beautiful red cake. A bunch of women, young and old, brought her gifts wrapped in red paper. You got these red parties. You're talking about the moon. Lady, I got news for you. You're in a Chinese wedding.
And if you sit right here, your foot will be bound for the next 3 to 5 days.
He likes causing pain in me, Prudentialist. He likes causing pain in my stomach.
This is the lead. I mean, I did not have a fun time reading this, but I'm glad that I can inflict some psychic pain onto you while I get to read. Oh, do you have a talking gun too?
No, I was drinking. I have a new energy drink that I'm drinking these days.
What is it?
This is Ghost.
This is Ghost.
Yeah, it's called Ghost. It's a 0 sugar, but it's cherry limeade flavored. So
I'm a cherry limeade appreciator myself, but that's because
you are.
Well, because sir, I live like 5 minutes from a Sonic. I love a cherry limeade. It's great. But I mean, I before the kidney failure, I was quite an energy drink connoisseur because I grew up as an army brat, so you would always try whatever the shit they were selling on base to keep the guys awake. And I'm a fan. I've deeply built up a high caffeine tolerance. It's crazy.
So Gio's in chat saying, I need to pay attention to stream sniping. What do you say?
I think he's going live on the air to make fun of us as we're covering this because I told him I did not want him to come on.
Prude seems much more relaxed on this show. Fug.
So true. But I'm also reading out loud. So here we go.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, single motherhood during the early 80s. Sans the aid of supportive community of women, she might have had the inspiration to host a menarche party for my sister and me, whereupon I sincerely doubt I would have spent almost a decade of my life teaching myself to love the blood that coursed out of my stunning cunt every month. Throwing menarche parties for our younger sisters, nieces, and daughters is a very simple and profound way of effecting a positive change for the next generation. Get your ass off and do it. If Pippi Longstocking were the nation's cover girl, rest assured that women would have had a superlative role model in the fine science of accepting ourselves. Miss Longstocking is extremely outspoken in response to negative social beliefs.
Okay,
and
by the way,
course,
for me,
she
quotes
Pippi
Longstocking a lot in this.
Oh yeah, this is her. This is the girl. This is the cover girl. If there is a woman that you're supposed to emulate, it's Pippi Longstocking.
That would look. I know we all like to joke about Squidward and Patrick, but this would be like if you wrote a political treatise that was saying SpongeBob SquarePants really taught us everything we need to know.
You know, I really hate to break it to you. Someone did this with My Little Pony and nationalism, and I own the book. I almost want us. I've thought about. I'm like, do we do that one? Like, do we cover that one day? Just a thought. Just thinking. Could be an idea. But I'm gonna carry. We're gonna move a little further down, and I'm gonna move to page 37, the bottom paragraph. Again, autoethnographic, autobiographical. This is where we're getting to understand ourselves. So she says, and again, I want you to note where we're at in the world and see if any of these places sound familiar to you. This little experiment resulted in an absolute mistrust for everything that I had ever learned about being a woman in this culture. I began the arduous task of questioning, reevaluating, researching, and rewriting the entire information cataloging system in my brain. For 2 years, I did not watch television, read newspapers, or any magazines which did not reflect a standard of womanhood which I identified with. Dr. Leo Daughtry, one of my esteemed instructors at Evergreen State College, told me that for one whole year he read books only by women writers. So I did that too. All this activity
Must have been
started
pretty
with
easy.
it's it's funny. Jay Burden and I just covered Airplane, and I'm reminded of when the steward, or like the lady, asks for something light to read, and she gives her this tiny little booklet of Jewish sports athletes. That movie's so great. All this activity started with my period, but it soon encompassed my entire life and history, as well as my way of perceiving the lives and history of every woman I have come into contact with. The way I learned to deal with my bleeding was in a way a reflection of what our society teaches us about everything cunt-loving and female, rhythmic, and sexual. These things, which must be somehow controlled with shame, embarrassment, taboo, violence, or drugs. In order to serve the same destructive tendencies of our society, everything that is cunt-loving must be sequestered away far into the deep recesses of the collective unconscious somehow. Therefore, like our cunts, our blood is a weird, messy, and ugly. The negativity surrounding menstruation is an illusion that falls away with the instant perspective. The instant perspective shifts. And all this mental activity started with me and the moon. There's a lot of literature written both during the medieval period, but also both in neo-paganism, but also in ancient Proto-Indo-European traditions with a more matriarchal focus. And you can also see this in Eastern religions as well. The lunar feminine has been such a thing both in the West as well as the East that we kind of see it reflected even today. Like, there's a reason why your go-to waifu in Elden Ring is a fucking lunar witch. Looking at you, people who pick the Ronnie ending, we know exactly what kind of person you are, you simp. The moon.
I was gonna say, I didn't want to be misconstrued when I said before that, being into the moon is a red flag. Like, it's not just invented by feminists.
No, this is pretty, but we're so far divorced from those the mythology and the religiosity that came with those times to today. In a way, if anything, this is like a matriarchal ghost dance.
Let me just point out to John Goris here, cunt lovin' sounds like something a trucker of old would say, but that's just
I agree.
She said that's her thing. She makes a point of saying this is her politics.
This is her word.
Religion.
You can't take it from her.
Like, I'm a cunt loving woman, and this is written for all the other cunt loving, LUVIN apostrophe. It has to be written like that, not cunt loving. It's cunt loving. And she just repeats it so fucking much. It insists upon itself. And this is where we're getting back to that millennial tone, or that the linguistics of the Tumblr, where it's like you're trying very hard, or to communicate to me that you're cool. It's like walking into the bookstore, as you said, and there's a display of unfuck your life, everything effing sucks. It's just people got in love with the word fuck, or F asterisk CK, to say that this ain't your daddy's book. Yes, I'm a faggot, but not like that. And so yeah, like, it's that's to me. I made the quip about there being no editor. Absolutely there was, but I don't think they did anything, because to me, I look at this and say, like, this would have just been passed through, because there's typos in this. There's things that are written wrong on purpose. There's no real flow to it. And they pay no care to asking, is this getting annoying to read? A good editor would have told her that. Would have said, hey, maybe use that word.
No, because the odds are she had a female editor who wasn't going to tell her, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is also, but there's also a significant portion in which we're also going to get the capitalism intersection here as well. So, I mean, we have the conversation about the use of pads and tampons and sort of the enormous profit margins of feminine hygiene. This is where you hear about the pink tax and how much women have to spend a year on these products. which again, that's something that you're still going to hear at any time, and I think that that's something that you certainly have to go about in that regard. And so she carries on and sort of talks about how this has been such a checkout line conversation where it's just absolutely insane that like this is the things we have to do and that I have to buy these things, once a month. And I find
she tells a story where she's in line with a man at a pharmacy and she's on her period, of course. So this is the situation every man fears being in. You're speaking to a woman who is on the rag, and she's going to be mean to you. She's going to be flying off the handle, and you're not going to know what to do. So she's complaining to a man about how she has to buy pads or tampons or whatever that month, and he, being the male ally that he is, agrees. And that's the story. That's the entire story she tells, which makes you think it must be made up. Where she's
and she says, I reply. Amongst my small circle of fans, I tally $700 spent on tampons and pads a year. I estimate that women in my apartment building spend $13,000 a year to swell the already enormous profit margins of feminine hygiene companies. I reluctantly made my selection, a box of Tampax Slender Regulars for $7.19. They're a lot more expensive now these days. I stormed my way to the checkout line. In front of me was a young man who said hello. I replied, do you realize that I will have barely $3 in the whole wide world after I purchase this box of tampons because my period is coming and I find it unsavory to bleed on all my clothes.
Because I'm on my period and I'm a brokey. I'm a broke bitch.
If I'm the checkout guy in this situation, like I've worked for a coffee shop, and like sometimes people you make small talk or whatever, and you make it nice, you make it polite. If someone is opening up and they're like, do you realize that I will only have like $3 to my name after I buy this box of tampon? I would like the social awkwardness would just be like, oh fuck me, what do I do now? Like, jeez. Jeez.
This woman comes in. Did you know that I'm a broke bitch and I'm bloody?
And then every man immediately turns into Don Draper and goes, ma'am.
That's what the money's for.
That's what the money's See, look how gracious I am to him with the laughs. Look how
I'm trying really hard not to enjoy myself. So anyways, he told me that he had considered this very conundrum. His girlfriend had bitched about the same thing at length.
Oh, by the way, that woman who's not her, she's a bitch, right? Anyway, go ahead.
We fell into a checkout line conversation on the matter, comparing men's hygienic expenses to those of women, and also how the moon is totally disregarded in our culture in relation to womb-type activities. The couple behind us, a well-to-do looking pair in their lawn bowling 60s, kept clearing their throats saying, and humph. The woman especially gave me an extremely disdainful looks for speaking so tactlessly and loudly in any store USA checkout line. A few days later, I related this experience to my friend Panacea Theriac. That's not a real name.
Again, this is like a sketch from Portlandia at the Feminist
bookstore. But I'm also thinking about because you know how like a lot of black liberation movements will like create these Africanized names for themselves. Like, Samuel Johnson is my slave name. My real name is, like Toowoomba Colombi or whatever, like anything. It's the same thing here.
My real name's Obongu Caesar.
Yeah, right. And what's wrong with this is the only funny joke Bill Burr has ever made, and it's from like some Netflix thing he did, and he's just like, well, what's wrong with your given name, Jefferson Davis?
What's so funny is like in the African American example, they're trying to approximate something vaguely African, like a half memory of a movie they saw about something African. In the case of the feminists, they're saying, what's some real like girl type shit I could call myself? And it's like when a tranny does it. It's like, what would a Trixie?
I appreciate
Trixie
Panacea over Lilith. I will say that much. I appreciate Panacea over Lilith.
Yeah. These fucking lesbians are female to female transsexuals.
F to F. There you go. So anyways, she says, oh, Inga, Inga Muscio, or however you want to pronounce it. I'm sure someone will chew us out later. I've been using sea sponges. Have you heard about them? I said, no. Panacea told me all about them. She bought 3 sea sponges for $1.59 a piece. Besides their obvious economic virtues, she said, you could use them over and over again. So they're more ecologically desirable. And when your sponge gets soaked with blood, no matter where you are, you just haul it out, wash it out real good with hot water and mild soap, and pop it back in. And you never have to trouble yourself with remembering to bring a tampon reserve. They're totally comfortable and fun to play with in the bathtub. Interesting. There you go. You can also squeeze the blood
in the bathtub.
You can also. That's like you couldn't find a toy boat.
If I was in a store and I heard her saying that, I would vault over displays and just kick her in the face. Just here's some fun
I mean,
things you
again,
can do
this
with
is the
your
most.
pussy
You
sponge.
couldn't write a better Portlandia script. You couldn't. And also, for those who live in the Pacific Northwest, you know these people are real. You know they're there. I've been to Portland. I know they're real. I've seen them.
It's like, just use. She gives the example of her asking her grandmother what they did before tampons, and the grandmother or great grandmother says something along the lines of, "Why do you think they have the phrase on the rag?" I'm like, yeah, probably. So use a fucking rag, you stinky hoe, you smelly lady. Stop complaining. Stop talking to me, laying this at my feet.
You picked the book.
Well, yeah. How else am I going to tell her to fuck off if I haven't read it? I can't just tell her to fuck off if I'm not covering the book. It would be incoherent. Think, prude.
I can't argue with that.
You can't argue.
Can't argue it. Hey, lady, I read your book, and I just have to say 2 words to you.
Yeah, I read your book and I spoke on 2 hours about it. And I just want to say, fuck off. Shut up.
Actually, shut up would be the 2 words to
Do
say
you
there.
realize how much work the average man puts into to be at a baseline level of misogyny? Women are out here out of pocket, acting up, if I may. Just talking shit about men the same way black people talk about conspiracy theories.
I can't. I'm so looking forward to when I get off. I just heard the door walk close, and I'm like, this is gonna be a lot of fun when I get off the air, because all of my frustration is about to get just dumped on this poor unsuspecting woman.
No, get it out now. And
She has no idea. But also, she is with a what did she say? She was with a small women's health collective in Olympia, Washington. Again, very Pacific Northwest. This is a certain type of white people.
If you get like 4 bitches hanging out, they're called a collective. Anything and they make anyone and everyone over there, and the way they do it's all fucked up.
Well, and for our friends who are watching other things, it is 1-1 Turkey versus the United States in the World Cup. But there you go. We dated the show.
It's crazy. I thought Americans would watch soccer the least, even though it's there.
Oh, I just clicked the other tab and I saw that the World Cup scores are playing right now. So there you go.
Hey, speaking of cups,
Yeah, there you go.
how about one filled with a sin?
With blood. Yeah.
How about one filled with the original affront to God? How about that?
Oh yeah, she cites Tertullian in here, which I thought was kind of like wild. Also the Quran gets cited. You know.
Can I list what she says are women's responsibilities? Here we go.
Sure.
Women have a lot of responsibilities, says she. Here are a few. Seizing a vocabulary for ourselves. Doesn't mean anything. That's a nonsense.
They already have their own
statement.
language.
Actively teaching ourselves to perceive cunts, ours and others, in a manner generating understanding and empathy. Taking this, like, of course, she must know that women hate each other more than anyone, more than any man ever could. But anyway, taking this knowledge out into the community, learning self-protection. I agree with this. You ladies, you should for once stop behaving worse than cyclists. Seeking out and supporting cunt-loving artists, businesses, media, and role models. I think at a time in the 90s that was viable. No one wants to hear that anymore. Alanis Morissette is over.
But we love Toni Morrison here.
using our power as consumers, keeping our money in a community
This
of
is
common
yeah.
women.
It's not. It's something that we hear quite often.
And this is the whole joke men always tell about no woman ever watches women's sports. You'll never see women as ticket holders in the stands or consuming. It's all men. So I'm like, yeah, if you want the revolution to occur, if you want the cunt loving women of the world to awaken, maybe you should watch a single female sport. Start there. Start there. Go to fewer vagina parties with the vagina cake and the vagina windows that you're wearing vagina hats. Why is everything a bachelorette party with these people, right? Everything's got to be a pussy party. You're getting married, you're getting divorced, you're praying to the moon, you're getting an abortion. Everything, man, it's just red and vaginas and Satan. It's just the same. It's the same fucking party. They're like Indians. The same kind of ill-defined party being thrown every few days.
And so then, of course, again, you have to tie men back into this somehow. So carrying on her long screed on menstruation, on page 48, she says, society fails to acknowledge that our bleeding cycle affects men's lives tremendously. This is further compounded by the fact that women who live or work in close proximity to one another tend to merge bleeding cycles. Chances are every woman in a given household or workplace is bleeding at the same time. Some men are surrounded on all sides by cranky, bleeding cunts. To the incognizant, we seem entirely unpredictable. We may bite a man's head off right away for the smallest vagrancy. They know this, but there is no way for them to not to know this. But chances are they don't understand and act like jerks because their courage is tested. When most men who don't understand women see how scary we really are, trust me, we know, courage usually segues to fear. This results in anger, frustration, violence, and the perpetuation of general disrespect towards women. Bottom line, men are afraid of our blood. How's this for some serious chicken shittedness? This is from the Quran, Surah 2. Keep away from women in their courses and do not approach them until they are clean. But when they have purified themselves, you may approach them in any manner, time, or place ordained for you by God. There you go.
It's funny, like just the way she
This is
said
called
it.
chicken shittedness, by the way.
Chicken shit, is that from the Prophet Muhammad?
No, that's her commenting on
Okay.
the alleged Prophet Muhammad.
It's hard to tell who we're quoting, the Prophet Muhammad or this dumb bitch. Anyway, there's something I love that segment you had there, because she starts by explaining how mean and irrational and violent they are towards men, but then ends it with saying, and that's why they're afraid of our blood. It's like, no, we're afraid of how you act. We're afraid of the things you say and you do, and we're not even afraid. We're just very tired. We're very tired, and we don't want to deal with it. But it's even within the logic of her own thing. This is the type of person that you're dealing with, where, and I see this with feminists all the time. I see this with women all the time too. Like their misappropriation of the word fear. They psychoanalyze everything. They psychoanalyze themselves daily. They psychoanalyze society in a very surface level way. Like none of them have read Freud, but they'll look at like Donald Trump and say, overcompensation means small penis, like stuff they've heard or read in a magazine, a teen girl magazine, about what projection is. But they usually the fear to them is so many different emotions wrapped up. Like fear isn't fear. And when I read a book like this and I pay close attention to the words they're using, I'm like, we interpret fear as like apprehension. We have to get away, and the power of it. But I don't know, to them, fear, it's this amalgamation of like fascination and wonder and fear and powerlessness and horniness at the same time. So I just get the sense when she says fear, she's projecting like her cocktail emotions onto men. Like, this is what you must feel too. It's horniness and awe. And I'm like, no, that's why we think, like, people like us say, I'm not homophobia, I'm not afraid of gays, things like that. But they don't use words.
Fear is often the prescription given for all things, despite the fact that it's never fear. It's usually disgust or your own instinctual reaction to know that something is terribly wrong. And I think that that's certainly the case in this regard. Because it's like, oh, like you're just homophobic or whatever. It's like, no, actually, I'm not. I'm aware of the statistical law of averages. In the same way, it's like, you're Islamophobic. It's like, no, I'm just aware of the law of averages and that they're incompatible with my civilization. Like, what are we in this? And we talked about this when we covered on resistance to evil by force. Like, Ellen spends a great deal of time saying, like, that's how they get you, is taking away your ability to express your disgust response. That's what it is.
Absolutely. I just wanted to point to this real seizing of the means of vocabulary from this gal.
Yeah, it's very, like I said, it's very Tumblr-esque. Later on, you know, so
this man says clam fatigue is a real thing from Bolero 393.
There you go. So the next section after her long take on menstruation is about Western medicine, self-love, and the fact that she's had 3 abortions.
Okay, and we'll get to this. You know what? Maybe we should. Let me just tee it up by saying this: 3 abortions by the age of 19. Do I have that correct?
It's right before she goes to Evergreen is number 2. And that one's a few years later. So I don't know how old. It's not before 19. It's before. I think it's definitely before 30.
Did you want to read that part? I'm looking for my notes.
I'm gonna read a section because this is the stuff that I don't know how far I can take it with YouTube. But I'm gonna go to page 53. And so she writes, quote, and so la-di-da, once, twice, 3 times, a cunt-loving lady, I got pregnant again. It was with the same boyfriend as the other 2 times, only now we were breaking up. It was the fuckidest, her words, one of all, because I didn't want to be with this man, and I shouldn't have fucked him, but it was his birthday, and he was obviously fun to romp with and blah, 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 blah.
She yada, yada, yada through it.
Sure did. No force on earth could make me feel like I wanted this child. Furthermore, I promptly decided that there was to be no grotesque waltz with that abhorrent machine. So I started talking to my friends about abortion alternatives. I lived in a small town with a high population of like-minded cunt-loving women. And so that was the one thing in my favor right there. It was against me was the fact that I was 8 weeks along, which is too advanced for an organically induced miscarriage.
Can I just interrupt you very quickly? And if we don't get to this, because there's a part at the end where she makes this clear, she is on the side of being pro-life. She would describe herself that way, but she is pro-choice practically for political reasons, but
politically pro-choice. I think deep down, if we're going to psychoanalyze, I think that there is a tinge of regret that shapes her to be somewhat pro-life.
Yeah, because she will say, and she might even say it here, that she believes the fetus to be a human life and just wants to annihilate it anyway.
Is what I think would be interesting in comparison to, feminists today, who are far more just it's a parasite. She's willing to humanize her fetus in comparison to, I think, modern feminists who are just so quick to dehumanize.
But I think this is, you understand it's human, but you still want to destroy it and kill it anyway, which, in my view, makes it more reprehensible. But I think that's lurking beneath a lot of them because so many of them need to distance themselves from the reality of it being a human life. We don't even need to get into all that right now, but they need to suppress that reality and make it into something else. But it's very clear here. You might say she says the quiet part out loud, where it really comes down to her disgust towards this man. And I really believe that's what animates the actions of so many of these women and they'll be honest about this. They will tell you this. They will say that it's more about you not wanting to raise that man's child, a copy of that man's, that he is an inferior male specimen, and for that reason, you're killing the child. So they don't see even if they see it as a human, it is a human they don't want anything to do with, which is a different viewpoint, in my view.
Yeah, and so there's a long conversation about Western medicine has always forced us to seek support, help, and assistance and quote-unquote cures from outside, never to look internally, never to embrace imaging or massaging or Eastern practices or herbal and more holistic remedies, to which she induces a miscarriage from a herbal tea recipe from a Boston anarchist feminist group that had put it out. And so she had induced that miscarriage from both herbal teas, forms of massaging, and treating it like an incantation. Basically, she says, "Me and my women friends did magic."
Here we go. It's. I hate to laugh at this because once you understand what she's describing, it is. I use the word reprehensible already. It says, Judy came to my house almost every night and massaged my uterus where you're not supposed to massage pregnant women who want to keep their babies. She also did reflexology by rubbing either side of my Achilles tendon on both feet. So it specifies later on that it was highly uncomfortable as well. So she credits the herbal tea, which has been passed down since the ancient witchy days of yore. But really what happened was this anarchist lady came in and pulverized her uterus every single day and was karate chopping her belly until she had a fucking miscarriage. So it's like taking the act of pushing a woman down the stairs and drawing it out for an entire month. That is what happened. And then acting like that's some, holistic. There's incense being lit, of course. There's a fucking kiddie pool there.
Yeah, so a week of nonstop imaging, massages, tea drinking, talking, and concentrating. I was brushing my teeth when I felt a very, So she had done it, and so basically she had someone, like you had said, done all that for a holistic new agey abortion.
But this is the thing about which is like really what they're doing. If you look at we were laughing about this in our community, even on the show. Like, women don't know how to do good magic. Women generally, they don't know how to make wishes either.
No, so, and they'll let things in. This is conversations. Like this is conversations I've heard when people discuss this, especially in more non-European cultures that have some kind of like feminine magic, sort of practice. Is that like, if you don't control it, you're basically just going to let all sorts of things into your life. And it's like the Christian in you is just like, well, great. You're opening yourself up to demonic possession and really, the influence from the invisible.
Go to an 8-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl and grant them a wish. And the boy is going to say, I want my snowman to come to life. He will give life where he is biologically
Did you watch
unable
Jack
to.
Frost lately with your kid?
No, is that the cover? That's a menacing.
Movie. That's Jack Frost is a movie from 1998. Well, it's with Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, one of America's actors. Now ask an 8-year-old girl what she'll do, and it's gonna be to kill her best friend. This is who you're dealing with. They can't handle wishes, and God love them. God bless the women of this world. We marry them. Hey. We're culpable in this, but really every women become witches, and then what do they try and do? They all chant the same thing at the same time to make Donald Trump's ass fall off, and his ass has only gotten bigger. It's only become more of the main character of every photo that he's in. It's a spectacular global failure of women and feminine magic, but that's all they want to do. Get 1,000 guys to wish in the same direction, and wondrous things are going to happen. It's going to be the biggest something you've ever seen. And you know what? It won't be sexual. They'd say, oh, they're going to make the biggest ball sack ever. Never. My guys, find 1,000 of my guys, they're going to make the biggest ice cream sandwich on earth. So that it's big enough that it becomes a problem. But then we start feeding the world. I'm just spitballing here. I think a better world happens the more magic you give men. You give it to women, it's going to be more period blood. Oceans of it. The end of Evangelion. Really, that's what that last image.
The human instead of the human instrumentality project, it's the human menstruality project.
QG global ass expansion magic. What were you guys expecting from this episode? By the way, there's your Nova. This is exactly what I want to happen. Where are we at? An hour and a half.
Get at the tampon, Genji. Or else we're gonna have to make Ray do it again.
this is why women like that Obsession movie, because it's a guy making a woman wish. That's an interesting wedge between the genders, is it not?
It's very interesting because you could play Obsession like a straight comedy movie, whereas a lot of women will tell you that like, oh, this is like, things you're pressured into, even though you're self-aware of what's going on. And then like my Zoomer friends, who are I have a friend of mine who's like 6 or 7 years younger than me, and he's just like man, I shouldn't have watched this movie before I went out on a singles event. And I'm like, okay, good to know. It's very interesting how everyone sort of breaks this all down. So she talks about all these things where this is like a religious act for her, not just abortion, but communicating with women, and the story of your life, the story of this new language, gives you the ability to break free from the oppression of patriarchal control.
She almost doesn't even mention patriarchy that much.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't use patriarchy. Patriarchy is not the word that she uses, but she implies that patriarchy is the de facto system that we live under.
Yeah, it's interesting though that, in her own words at least, she's trying to center femininity, so men are incidental to this book. Which,
correct.
While the book does not pass the Bechdel test, it gets closer than others. Like, it doesn't bitch about men as much as
also, like, the
think.
Bechdel test is just not real.
Yeah,
like, I hate to break it to you, but like, it's no. Most women will have conversations that regard the men in their life.
Yeah, but this one, like, it's not just about complaining about men. In fact, I would say it doesn't really complain
this
about
is
them
to make
at all.
men completely secondary. Like, she does reference the Scum Manifesto, and this is a linguistic and hermeneutical tool in which you can bypass the day-to-day cultural dominance and preeminence of men. This is really what this book is for. This is why it's a Declaration of Independence. Is because these linguistic tools, these abilities to treat yourself as something that is holy and to bypass any form of previous culture, which have almost been entirely masculine. I think about that great Lee tweet where, women say things on the internet and then wonder why every culture, race, language, religion has tried to suppress them. Like, for her, this is the way to bypass that, she's telling you that you should taste yourself. She's telling you that you should always be aware of yourself, look into your own cervix, be aware of your own health, which again, everyone should be aware of their own health. But, this is for her. It's just like, yeah, you should do all these things. Taste yourself because you're holy. You're so fucking cool. And remember, guys, the most important women on earth are whores.
That's what was always so funny about.
So everything, like, sorry to jump on this, but
go ahead.
This is where every top tier left wing, like, void issue comes from. It's just like, you are sacred, you are holy, you don't need him, you can kill that parasite, and oh, by the way, like, sex work is real work. And it's really funny to go back to 1998 in this text and to read about this, because for her, this is, I don't know if she could even imagine that, like, the girl next door fantasy can be sold to you for $8.99 a month plus tax. Whoredom has existed in various guises, she writes on page 76. For thousands and thousands of years, the main artery of the goddess's life force that is too powerful to annihilate. Whoredom has been successfully vilified. Whoredom is presently accepted as a very, very bad thing, while its history debases the idea beyond all reckoning. Sound like any old word that is the title to a book you've been reading lately? In our present mode of collective consciousness, a whore is simply a person who exchanges sex for financial resources. Well, yes.
Can I say this? There's something she says later, like, as you're saying that, this just jumped to mind on page 74. She says, I've never been a whore. I've read and thought about and talked to whores. That's like that whole, like, Amy Schumer, like, she's fat positive until someone says she's fat. She's like, no, women healthy at every size, but I'm not like those bitches. Like, are you a whore? Have you been a whore? No, God, no.
But she says some women opt to be whores because procuring semen from men's bodies is a bona fide way of making a living in society where they are viewed as highly expendable citizens. Men have always been the most expendable citizen, but okay. Miss Streetwalker exchanges womanly wiles for subsistence.
Submarine sandwiches, huh?
Yeah. Some women, such as the late Princess Diana, who once referred to herself as the highest paid prostitute in the world, don't actually opt to be whores, but realize nonetheless that this is exactly what that we are. Miss Power Wife. Notice no Mrs. It's not Mrs. Power Wife. It's Miss Power Wife.
And also notice that if this was written by a black woman, all of these white bitches would be classified basically as men, right? Like
they would be excoriated for being white. Yes.
Yeah, like takes care throughout the book. She says like, I'm a white woman, I get that, but she's almost trying to be like, the cunt is our N-word. Like she mentioned Martin Luther King. She says Valerie Solanas, her death, it was some other singer of some punk band. But she's like, that's like our Martin Luther King. I'm like, oh baby.
Yeah, she then spends a great deal of blasphemy that I'm going to skip over because I just, no thank you. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to pay her blasphemy any of my time. But I will. So again, moving on. I'm on page 79. One time I got blessed by this goddess incarnation. I'm not going to name it. She's not a whore, but she's by far the closest personification of an olden time sacred temple priestess I've ever personally encountered. This is a woman from India who comes to America and does these ashram things. The first time I went to her ashram thing, I had no idea what it was about. I saw a bunch of mostly white people dressed in white clothes who bugged me about, oh, I'm so very holy and drink herbal tea constantly vibration. But the music was amazing. No children, just vibes. She sat them down in front of a room of a bunch of pillows, musicians, attendants, children, and flowers surrounded her. Thousands of flowers, like when Princess Diana died. She sat there with her eyes closed and chanted. Probably she was meditating, wearing a flowing white sari, and was covered with chiffon silk and everything soft and whispery. I figured she understood the concept of an ashram far better than I did, so I did the same as her, closed my eyes, sat and listened. This lasted a long time, but like in a dream, I don't know how many minutes and hours had passed. There were the rustling sounds of people standing up. I opened my eyes, and everyone was forming a double line that led to her. My friends told me she was going to bless people, so we queued up. The line was very, very long, snaking throughout the entire large building we were in. If it had been a line at the post office, I would have absolutely had to stand in for some reason or another. I would have sold my soul to the person in front to give me cuts. But this line was different.
I say this out of love. White women really got one-shotted by Indian gobbledygook for a long time.
Eastern religion certainly did a number.
I just want to use the word Orientalism because
I think it's totally. I think like Anglo anthropologists got one-shotted by like Manichaean texts they found in like Afghanistan or India in like 1840, and then it's just like that's the stuff all came to America in the 60s and 70s, wherein it's a lot of New Age guruism. It's a lot of stuff that you're going to find still even today. And of course, it made a very big stink in, no pun intended, in the 1970s and 80s with certain collective movements and domestic and international terrorism. And it played also a large role in the Days of Rage. So it doesn't really surprise me. She just simply pressed flower petals and chocolate kisses into her hand, and she stumbled away like a drunk who had an orgasm. Like, this is how she describes it. Like, if that's not getting one-shotted, I don't know what is.
There's a lot of stories of women doing things like that throughout this book. I remember there was a part. Do I still have it here? Okay, I was going to skip.
Yeah. Go for it. I've been talking too long.
It's nothing to do with anything, but it just says, masturbation is a high art. I have a cunt-loving friend who masturbates without touching herself. She ornately concentrates on an erotic adventure until she comes her brains out. She's rolled her eyes and moaned on public transportation and in long lines at the grocery store. See, like, you tell stories like that, even if that's true, that's just hugely inconvenient. You know what I mean? Like, you wonder why women get called cunts. How about just because you're having an unnecessary orgasm at the bank? Like, everyone knows what's going on, and you should be arrested. I don't want to hear that if this story doesn't end with her being arrested with a knee on her neck.
We both know this doesn't.
Like, why is this only happening to George Floyd? I can name you 35 million people who should have the George Floyd treatment.
And her
By which I mean taking fentanyl.
Well, There you go. There's an epidural for that.
Oh, no.
The fact that-
He made the cunt episode political.
I hate to break it to you. I think we're a little past that.
Sorry, what page were you?
I was going to move to page 85 real quick.
Here we go.
And then I wanted to conclude on Mademoiselle.
Oh, that. Ooh, yeah.
We have to end there. It's too important. But anyways, she says, the fact that whores are no longer exalted and respected is very much a reflection of our culture's collective sexual retardation and our fear of women's innate sexual power.
I would say, like, my
a lot of
specific
sexual
culture
retards out there on the marketplace today. I'll
Sexual
tell you that.
retardation is very familiar to many people in this chat, but likely not in the way that she's referring to.
No. Although I'm immediately thinking about the stupid old Reddit thing where it's like, you like that, you fucking retard.
Bolero 393 says, I don't know, this book smells kind of fishy to me.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you, Afro Man. See, we got everything in here. We got everything here. The aptly named Carol Queen is my personal prophet on whoredom's future in society. Let's see if Carol Queen got it right. To guide another person to orgasm, to hold and caress, to provide companionship and an initiation of new forms of sex, to embody the divine and embrace the seeker. These are healing and holy acts. Every prostitute can do these things, whether or not she or he understands their spiritual potential. For us to see ourselves as sacred whores, for our clients to acknowledge the many facets of desire they bring to us, can be a powerful shift in consciousness. We show the face of the goddess in a culture that has tried for millennia to break and denigrate her, just as some today claim we are broken and denigrated. They are not correct, and the goddess will not be broken. In our collective extraordinary experience, we prostitutes have healed even those who do not honor us. Were the attack on us over, we could begin to heal the whole world. After 7,000 years of oppression, I declare this the time to bring back our temple.
This tampon was promised to them 3,000 years ago.
7,000 years ago. 7,000 years ago.
It must be asked. I think we're at a safe point in the show now. Are prostitutes the original Jews?
No. Although because I mean no. But I mean, the practice carries on even after the flood. But theology aside, and for simple Jew jokes, it is interesting, though, because if you notice the explosion of, like, OnlyFans and all that kind of culture, everyone is a goddess. Everyone is some sort of witch, goddess, spirit, some sort of divine incarnation of an erotic being. It is a complete departure from any sort of quote-unquote patriarchal religion, and it just moves straight to corruption, and that unshackle yourself and to give me my $315 or whatever they want for their customs or their cam sessions or whatever. But it's all for the fact that you want to worship them. You're putting them in place of God, and instead that is your God, which is this, someone who barely makes their rent.
Yeah, and
because most women who do this sort of stuff, they're not the top 2%. They're not the ones that make thousands of dollars a month. We know what the averages are. We even had talked about this with the hashtag thought audit a few years back. It's like, yeah, you can call yourself a goddess and you can feel liberated, but at the end of the day, you're a woman now whose, like, tits are out on the internet forever.
And you mentioned something there, like, we keep coming back to God. And I think we've done a pretty good job of not bringing up spirituality, religion too much in this, but it is there. And one thing I probably should have mentioned at the top was, we throw around words like Satanism, and, I never wanted to refer to anything that these ladies are doing as paganism, or I don't even like the word paganism.
We know too many pagans to say to compare this to what they do.
Yeah, because some people will say that anything non-Christian is all paganism. Some people think that. They'd be wrong. I don't even like the word paganism because that's used, I think it was developed as more of a pejorative, a very dismissive term. Some of my best friends
it comes from the word from the countryside, because Christianity rose in the cities. And so if you were a country bumpkin, you were a pagan.
It was based
Paganus.
after early accounts of encountering these people, and they said that they made noises like peg, peg, peg. That's going to be a reference nobody gets, and I won't explain it. But I don't want to call it paganism because it's a different way of engaging with, let's just broadly call it the paranormal world. Like when we say witchcraft, when we say occult or dark magic, that stuff pertains mostly to, in my view, Satan. It's very self-serving. It's a very specific form of magic. It's not just revering and praying to a deity other than the Christian God, or however you want to term it. Like if you were to ask these people, I think they would be saying that they're praying to something dark and chaotic, and they're okay with that, and they embrace the chaos. This is the sort of faux religion you come up with when you are a lesbian, which means that you're trying to be performatively out hornying men, but you just don't have sex. So it starts to mutate and grow fungus. And this is what you get. Like, you are making deals with the devil. Like, the magic they're trying to employ, it's like dark chaos magic. And they're kind of aware of that. And we just don't take it seriously. We think it's silly. It's just some kooky women doing some unserious stuff. But I don't know. Like, I think if you were to take them seriously, if you're actually to be less misogynistic and maybe take their perspective at a equal footing, you would say, like, oh, you're engaged in something that is truly delirious. You're engaging in something that is like anti-civilization. Like, it's evil. It's evil, the stuff that they're doing. And we'll get to, maybe we get to that right now. What page is that? Mademoiselle.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there are other parts in here where she obviously talks about how, like, when the boys are here, you always keep the door open, and then, of course, there's the reputation part. You're like, we don't want our little girl to be a whore now, don't you? And then, at age 10, I'd remotely entertain the notion of kissing boys, while at least 3 of my girlfriends had figured out how to make each other come by the time we were 7.
Yeah, okay, so I think I know. Is this page 88, where she's basically saying that her and her friends are like doing lesbian shit at age 8? Where the fuck is it? Little my parents know when it was me and my girlfriends who engaged in sexual activity at age 10 that remotely entertained the notion of kissing boys. Yeah, here we go. I've had the satisfaction of cluing my mom in, but I wish my dad were alive so I could say, yo, Pops, if you were really concerned about my chastity, you shouldn't have letting certain friends spend the night with me, you fool. Just that type of
So
writing.
again, I hate Dad. No proper consideration for when or where you're engaging in activity like this. Way too young. No healthy conversation about it either from either side. Although the reputation thing, totally fair, totally true. And then later on, again, this I hate. Phyllis Schlafly was right again about certain types. And what do we do? What do we do? That's true. Bronzecast Grasshopper. That's a great username, by the way. I like that username. Bronzecast Grasshopper. How much more central sex is to women's thinking than men's? Not horniness, lust per se, but how much their lives rotate around it. And I think it also just has to do with the basic biological differences between men and women. Like, I'm programmed to procreate, but this is insane.
There's also, I mean, we could
this
spend
woman
a
has
long
referred to
time.
herself as a whole more than I would ever consider to ever describe women, even if I was on like a misogynistic tirade. Like, this is just her entire definition on this book. I'm a declaration of independence. I refuse to be, defined by being a whole. So here's my manifesto about why I'm a whole.
It's like, I refuse to define myself by being a whole. I'll define myself by the waste that is expelled from it, and draw my entire essence from that waste, which is effectively what she's doing. If you read just what we've previously read here, like at age 10, she's, would you even call it fornication? I guess this is what I'm going to say, because about how men and women view sex, I mean, we could spend hours on this if we wanted to, but, you do think about it quite a bit, throughout your life, and the courtship process, how the male role in that is, fundamentally more predatory than the female one. That's the dance that we play. The man is ambitious. He asks her out. He appeals to her nature. It's her job to say no. It's her job to repel and to put up defenses and to give tests and to judge whatever it is he is doing, to grant access. That's what she's doing. That's her power. The man's power is the ambition. So you could even say that this is why men are necessarily more ambitious, because this goes right into our DNA. This goes right into our biology. And so, women generally, I think, they struggle to view themselves as something other than a subject in the universe. Things happen to women. Women are overwhelmed. Women will frequently ask, why is this happening to me? Your wife might do this, your girlfriend might do this. If they're stressed, they'll act like they're being subjected to things from the universe, from God, from society. Why is this happening to me? I'm not saying women don't have a sense of agency, but it's inarguable that they have less agency than men. You'll never see a woman take what we might call extreme ownership over a problem, and that's fine. But that's why when they do strike out on their own, when they try to exhibit some sort of ambition, like it's very confused. It's a misfire. It's a clumsy appropriation of what they believe men to be, and then we read something like we just read here where it's like, me and my friends were fucking at 10. I'm like, were you? Like, is this a lie? Like, what is, like,
no, I'm inclined to believe her.
It's wild because, like, that's not normal, right? Like, she must know.
But I think she's okay with not knowing, because this has become now one of those insightful, youthful. I mean, this is the Phyllis Schlafly thing, where it's just like, that this happens because you have to basically corrupt the young, or that those who were corrupted when they were young were now exposed to it, and now it must propagate because there's no proper channel in which this can be rectified. And of course, like, it's a tragedy that something like this takes place. And now it's, a budding sexuality. And this isn't to preface my anger for instilling those shameful associations. They did the best they could. But, like, again, it's,
Can I just do this part here? This part, because it needs to be said, if it's not been stated explicitly or implicitly, that exposing children to sex is pretty universally regarded as dangerous. And I'm not trying to defend the world of psychoanalysis here, but I think this predates the psychoanalytic revolution, especially in America. Let me just say this part here. She says, I quelled any animosity I may have felt towards them the time I saw this real old Japanese print of two people having rapturous sex while their 3 children peacefully played a game with marbles at their feet. It is the epitome of the family at home together picture. The kids don't care that the parents are fucking, because fucking is as much a part of life as playing with marbles. They're completely unconcerned with what their parents are doing because it's no big deal. They're just fucking. The parents are playing a game that someone taught them how to play. By the time those kids got big, they know fucking like they knew soft, glassy, unfortunate word, chink of marbles colliding. This was not my reality. So she thinks she was robbed of something by not being exposed to sex. But, like, I'm reminded of this film, and this will sound so obvious to people who hear it, called Capturing the Freedmans. It's this, I'm sure Gio's heard of it, if he's still in the chat. It's this really fascinating documentary about this, like, I think Long Island Jewish family in the 70s that got hit with not child sex trafficking, but child rape and then child pornography charges. It was the father and then at least one of the sons. And it follows their story and their home movies and shit. I won't go into it, but it was a real whodunit. Did he do it throughout the entire documentary? It's obvious that he did it, committing suicide later. But one thing that he's got a brother, the Arnold Friedman had a brother who was gay. And they just say that's a huge coincidence, right? And he said, oh, nothing, me and my brother, nothing ever happened to us. Nothing ever happened to us. That was what he said in the film. Later on, in an interview years after the documentary came out, he admits, he's like, no, I was molested by my brother, my older brother. And what had happened was they were raised by a single mom. And they were raised by a single mom and slept in a single room basement apartment, and she was always having men over, and then she'd just be fucking them in the room. And, Japanese paintings aside, you would understand witnessing that makes you're exposed to sex at a very young age. You can't make sense of it. That makes you highly sexual. The brothers were engaging in pedophilic incest at a very age, and that fucked them both up. But now they're both now they're pedophiles. So, but it's like this idea that she's like, oh, it's just sex. You can just have it on kids. Like, no, you fucking can't. Every culture's figured this out. Every culture on Earth has figured this out, except for dykes. Except for all of these bitches out here who are getting really big into stand-up comedy right now. Like, I bet they all believe that. By the way, I think all of the LGBT community also believes this, by the way. I'd say 80% of them.
Ironically, I mean, he's obviously like a big drama lightning rod, but like this is originally what got Milo Yiannopoulos canceled, was that he basically said like, yeah, he got molested when he was young, and this is a big part of gay culture, is vast age gaps and predatory behavior on the young.
Oh, Randy Sugar says that documentary was a job to cover up the pedos. Absolutely. And that's why like I saw it. And then I wanted to follow it up later with these other interviews and stuff. It's just like Making a Murder. I don't think I've seen a true crime documentary that wasn't like running cover for the subject. I think there might have been one I saw, like one ever, that wasn't trying to like say, well, the evidence was shaky. Can anyone really know anything? And just like choosing to ignore all the evidence. Also, the fact that Arnold Freeman got caught with an FBI sting buying child pornography, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I did it."
Yeah, I am the section I want to conclude, because this again we talk about the exposure to children. There's a lot of this I don't know how much we can get away with reading. Actually, well, I'll basically
it's good enough for libraries.
It's good. Yeah, it's true. So this leads to the story of Mademoiselle Precious, my cousin's daughter. She was 7.
Now, what page? I want people to.
We're on page 90.
Oh, the next page.
7 years old, people. Anyways, Mademoiselle Precious loved all of our friends. She has been given a week to stay with her musical concubine and me for 1 week in the summer.
Which is such a poor, like the mother saying, "Hey, just stay with this lesbian.
Stay with this childless feminist moon magic lady." Terrible, terrible judgment.
In the big city.
In the big city. And so, they notice that she's exploring her body, and they just basically ask, do you think her parents have talked to her about what that means, i.e. masturbation? And she says, do you think that you should talk to her about it? And I thought how embarrassed that I was at the time. My sister barged into the bathroom while I was whacking off with a shower massage. I also thought about how I probably wouldn't want to have such a baggage load of negative beliefs to dispel as an adult if just one measly person had told me it was fine and dandy to bandy my clit when I was a kid. But geez, talking to Mademoiselle Precious about this sort of thing, what if it had embarrassed her? What if it scarred her for life and it would all be my fault? What would I say? I said, I don't know again. It was quite a preoccupational quandary in my mind all the day long. We went to the river, played in the mud and the water. When we came home, my musical concubine made phone calls, and Mademoiselle Precious and I took a bubble bath. We were busy again. She's in a bath with a child.
She decided to take a bubble bath with this 7-year-old. Extremely inappropriate. There's no, because here's the if you're listening to this or watching this and you don't have kids, you probably can't visualize what's the difference between a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. It's very difficult to know what's appropriate for what age. As a father of 2, my oldest is 3, so we're not quite there yet. But I know 7-year-olds. I know about what level of maturity they're at. There's no reason for this grown woman to be taking a bath with that.
And she doesn't say how old she is, so I'm presuming 30s or mid to late 20s.
I think all lesbians are permanently 31, so it's hard to tell, really.
But basically, this after this sort of thing takes place about, this is a 7-year-old who basically just comes up with her own phrase for herself and her intimate parts. And, she's basically told by Inga here that everyone plays with themselves, and then that's an okay thing. They splashed around and chanted while they flooded the whole bathroom. And basically, this woman just basically explains what masturbation is. Everyone does it. It's a good thing. You can do it. I do it. And she basically says, I hope this experience had a positive effect on her sexuality. And I hope that she remembers all her life that there's not a problem in the world about her jacking off. However, even if our conversation gets lost in a shuffle of growing up, our little talk heartened me tremendously. I felt like I righted an inadvertent wrong committed against me when I was a little girl. Felt the cards of Carmel ripple into place. Gee, I wonder why.
Look, I don't think you need to be a psychoanalyst to start unpacking that.
No.
There should be some sirens being set off. And so, again, we don't want to get too much into this because people are correctly...
But no, she groomed a kid.
Yeah, they're righteously disgusted by this, but people are used to it being like young boys and older men. Like that's why you almost rarely hear about it, young girls and older women. And so some people, like, this is the first time they've heard something like this. But I bet it happens quite a bit, especially with lesbians. And like, just to recap, it's like they saw that this girl who's sleeping on the couch was like rustling around at night, not going to bed right away. By the way, when my son, who's 3 years old, we put him to bed, he's like awake for an hour sometimes, just like, playing with the stuffed animals or whatever. That's what kids fucking do, right? But they're like, oh, she must be masturbating in there. That's like the first thing that came to their head. So like, well, we better talk to her about it, which is, again, just levels of, just beyond the pale that we're phasing between here. And then they introduce her. And if you understand the mind of someone who's like 5 to 7, the idea that an adult that you've been taught to trust is introducing you to an idea, because that's what happens. Like, do you touching yourself? Everyone does it. No. She's like, no, I don't do that. You mean everyone does it? It's like, that's how kids think. That's why they're so precious. That's why you gotta be so careful what you introduce them to, because they don't know what's normal yet. But that's how it's so easy to groom them. And I have to believe that because this person, and I think she's representative of a lot of these types of lesbian feminists, because they're so corrupted, they actually don't see what they're doing, or they might not. I don't fucking know. When you're that deep into, Satan's anus, maybe it's hard to tell. But the idea, like, she's dragging her along this path of inappropriate sexuality. She's like, I feel personally redeemed at that. Like, you, listener, lack the ability to even comprehend what any of that feels like.
It's incredibly sickening.
It's inhuman what she's saying, but she writes it down. How many of her audience, her readers, read that and said, "You go, girl"?
Yeah, and I mean, this is also later on. They get into, of course, rape culture, the rape and murder of Mia Zapata. Overall, then they of course talk about the non-Hollywood films dealing with rape. Last Exit to Brooklyn, The Bandit Queen, also from India. And so she sort of breaks it down and sort of like, I have to love myself and to love everything about it. And instead, because of the way our culture is, we only enable this kind of violent action to exist. And so she advocates for moving to publicly humiliate rapists, which basically, in me, her idea of cunt love and public retaliation is more or less her way of basically doing Me Too in a lot of ways. And so it's a valid cultural custom. And so it's coming, it's happening.
She's like, I want to do Me Too and publicly humiliate rapists, but I would never, ever, 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 ever deport one.
Yeah, basically. That's certainly the case. And then towards the end of the text, we have a conversation over trans inclusivity, which she takes the trans inclusive side of the feminist argument, and she sort of bypasses a lot of the TERF argumentation by just saying, like, she takes the whole gender is performative argument, and that's what she goes with.
Yeah, it's you can tell she's like an old head in this. Like a lot of the lesbians, like as radical as she believed herself to be, and she very well may have been for the time, she was insufficiently radical contrasted against the types we have right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't point to someone else in the chat had mentioned, I apologize for neglecting the name, but it brought Lena Dunham. And the story that's
told. A totally apt thing to bring up. Yeah.
Who again, in her own autobiography, and she's the toast of New York Jewish feminism, of course. she tells a story in her autobiography about how like she was sexually abusing her younger sister, like as a baby. So
Yeah.
I would call it incestuous pedophilia and like inserting rocks in her private areas. I hate to even describe it, but she wrote it down, and this was published by a major publisher. And again, she was thunderstruck that people were offended by this afterwards. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like I can't wrap my head around these people. But anyway, like we had a Bronze Age guy in here. He was saying that he's got like a dozen other critical theory books where the authors tell on themselves in the same way. I don't doubt it
But that's the thing.
whatsoever.
If you read a lot of these critical theories, like even Ibram X. Kendi, you read, of course, we did Robin DiAngelo. We've covered this one in the Scum Manifesto. It's also highly autobiographical. And it's also the same thing with virtually all critical theory relating to like border studies, Latina and Chicano studies, the same thing with African American things. They're all incredibly ethnographic, autobiographical experiences of how fucked up they are, and as they stand as outliers to society. And so overall, this book to me becomes a very thorough autobiographical explanation of a father who left the picture at some point in time. The usual morals she found to be abhorrent. She was very, very young when exposed to sexuality in front of other people, would later groom with that, go to Evergreen, which for those who are familiar with our culture war here in America, that college name sounds really familiar. And the Pacific Northwest progressive culture offers instead a way in which to look at themselves as a art collective and the feminist movements that we see in that part of the country, but also which would later become the sort of mainstream feminism of today on steroids. You can see it here as a way to break free and to linguistically, sexually, culturally, artistically, religiously divorce themselves entirely from the existence of men in general, and to instead lead a sort of cunt-loving, gynocentric world in which we basically now get to live in today.
Yeah, and if we haven't been clear, that is the nucleus of this entire book, which is somewhat admirable in the sense that she doesn't just complain about men the entire time, as I said earlier, and she's trying to craft a
If anything,
woman-
it's a relief.
Yeah, it's woman centric. It's woman forward. But like as you'd said, she'll say claims at one point. I don't know if I have the page here. She was starting female self defense groups, or
Yes.
I'm like, no complaints here when she talked about females learning self defense. Sure, do that, but then they go out in the streets thinking that they're John Wick, and that's a problem. You see, like you get so up in your head, you get so in line with your own bullshit, you actually do start thinking you're magic. You do start thinking that I have the ferocity of generations upon generations of women and no one can stand against me. Like if you actually believe that, you're going to get raped. And believe it or not, I am against rape. I know that's going to come as a shock
to
a lot
some.
a shock to some, but it's people like us that really want to solve the rape problem. I hate the idea that you can be raped in the street, ladies, and I have some solutions for that, but you don't like any of the solutions. What you want to do
Like
instead is pray
like the
is pray
video
to
of
vagina
the-
god.
Yeah, like the video of that what happened in Italy. It was like an African migrant had been like sexually harassing or leering, and a woman immediately jumped to her defense, to his defense.
This
Again, you can stop rape. You
Like,
really
we-
can.
we're in the
you
process
just
of-
have to get rid of a lot of people.
we're in the process of capturing someone who's, if not a rapist now, will be by noon tomorrow. And we're apprehending him, and you're screaming and saying, "Leave him alone! Leave him alone! Like, what do you do?" I'm like, I can't. I'm trying so hard to save civilization. I'm trying so hard to make it so you're not raped, and I can't even get a head nod. I can't even get an attaboy. You know what I mean? Like it's the sensitive young men and the violent old men. They get nothing from these bitches.
Yeah.
I don't want to end on a bitter note because really, it's. I think this is more popular in feminist circles, but like we started off the episode talking about, I think feminism, like leftism generally, is really confused and internally inconsistent and cannibalistic right now. I don't think it has a sense of itself. I think me, like you had very acutely said, not acutely, but appropriately said that the Me Too movement accomplished what she was proposing. So
In a
what
lot of ways,
now?
yeah.
So what now? Because it failed. It's not there anymore. It withered and died. Because it turns out that you guys
I
just
would
couldn't
disagree that it didn't wither and die, because the entirety of gender relations post Me Too has it just fucking cratered. I mean, like I mean, people can make fun of Mike Pence or whatever for a lot of reasons. I traitor to the country, but like, Mike Pence, the Mike Pence rule is something that I practice. Like, I will always have the door open when there is a woman in the room, because I don't want anyone to think anything or for her to come up with a story if she leaves. Because just fundamentally don't trust women, because I think that the problem is that is there an actual like rape problem, or are there people in elite positions that will use their power to take advantage of people? Absolutely, because that's something that's the tale as old as fucking time. But also, it's the same way in which anyone who wants to get a leg up in the world will take advantage of the situation and be the girl who cried harassment, or the girl who cried rape, or, you know, like how blacks will say, oh, he used the N-word to justify like beating some white person's head in when they didn't say a word. It's been weaponized. And so now, like, it's a mode of social enforcement against the very people that they despise. So, like, yeah, you can have like public humiliation of your rapist, right? Like we've done this with Harvey Weinstein, where they've described his genitals as all kinds of things. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure he is a disgusting, you know, Hollywood screenwriter American degenerate. But like, these are the things also we saw with Michael Jackson. These are the things that we see all the time, even today. And so it's not that it withered on the vine. It's in the same way that like Obama's Dear Colleague letter fundamentally destroyed fraternity culture in American colleges. It definitely changed the way in which men and women engage in intimate relations, even to this day. And it plays a role where everyone is now kind of living in the aftermath of the pill and everything else, because it's like the nuclear bomb. You know, the fallout's still there, the damage is done. You can rebuild sexuality, but a lot of the things that she has described or have talked about or wanted exist. And again, of course, men are secondary, and a woman who is deeply damaged and exposed to things at a way too young of age has allowed these types of ideas and people to fundamentally rewrite society in a way that has only generated the paradox of female happiness, has led to less children being born, more children being killed, and men and women who have been made by God to be together, because it is not good for man to be alone, to instead treat themselves as their own God, fundamentally act as an antichrist, to put themselves before God, and overall exist in a way in which really the only place for men to exist is either to be rapists or eunuchs, and there's no in between.
Yeah, we keep coming back to this notion that this almost seems quaint. It seems like an older style of kooky second wave feminism. It seems at a place in the current era. The current era is much less hinged, more nefarious, more, I don't know, politically infused. It's very strange, but it's also not even, it's less real. Like here, there's a woman trying to accomplish something with it. When I look at what feminists are talking about now, it's just gobbledygook. It's nonsense. It's just the as you said, the relationship between men and women, I don't think has ever really been worse. And so it's just frothing at the mouth, animalistic noises. Whereas this was sort of like the last attempt at doing something that, at the very least, it insists upon itself. At the very least, it's a preposterous treatise of some kind. It was trying to be something, and it's only gone worse. She would have no place in the feminism of today, I don't think, right? Because she doesn't embrace trannies enough, or they'd see her as a white woman, so back of the line, right? And she would say, well, we're all women, I don't even see race. Wrong answer. Woman like that saying she doesn't see race, she'll get the shit kicked out of her these days from her people, not us. Half this chat would want to marry her right now if they could. You know what I mean? Anyway, we need to get going.
She would
soon.
choose the bear.
She would. Yeah. I wonder if she would though. Because we get into this it's our failure is asking women a question. Man or bear? Like, don't even ask them. They're gonna say something they don't mean. I would choose the bear because you don't. Nothing you say is the truth. You don't actually think that. You don't think that.
I just thought of the worst possible thing to say. Doesn't matter what you choose, they're not going to find your body.
The illusion of being pro-choice in anything about your own life.
If anything, it's like either way, you're facing the consequences.
Man, there's so much we could have fit in this episode. I think we covered everything that matters in the book. We skipped around a lot, but there's a lot about menstruation I didn't really care to cover. Every chapter goes on twice as long, in my view. Like it's a lot of very, very simple ideas.
This could have been an email.
Yeah. But it's poetry. It's autobiographical.
There's a lot of poetry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of spoken word poetry.
Yeah, there's a lot of... It's kind of boring in parts, so we gave what I believe to be the most important parts and the most amusing parts. And imagine the word cunt loving coming up 9 times as much, and there you've read the book. Oh, wait.
But I hope you take these words, and I hope you find a way to use them in everyday conversation.
Yeah, if
I hope you have a good time.
Look, good, solid ass reasons. That's how she writes.
Yeah.
She write like honestly, this was written in 98.
Written in 98, it's still anti-white women. It's still white women are complicit in evil. So she's a self-hating white, and she's got a lot of acrimonious sensations towards her own race, and that's a big part of her autobiography is just how much she as a white woman has contributed to evil.
Yeah, we have to read that one because race doesn't come up it comes up once.
Thankfully, the next book we're talking about is about race.
We're getting back to race. We're getting back to the good stuff. Enough of this whole business.
Instead, we're going to dig ourselves into a further hole as we next month cover Kaufman's book White Shift.
That is going to be a good one. We'll be back next month for that. If anyone, any closing thoughts? Any just last words?
I just want to make sure that all the super chats get read out. I'm just going to read them real briefly. So, of course, he says, I could use more of a hearty geo laugh to endure this discussion of menstruation, says Bolero. So true. Wingman became a channel, or has been a channel member for 9 months. Thank you, Wingman. He's also been the gentleman who's made me review some other books on the side. He says, his fantasy waifu is Lauren Southern. I know what I am. We know, Dr. Murdoch. We know. And we might cover her book behind a paywall or something. I don't know. Bolero has been very generous throughout this entire show. He says clam fatigue is a real thing. Does she have a bumper sticker with a fetus and a no smoking circle for each one? It's a good question. And then she says, I don't know, but this whole book smells fishy to me. So various puns aside about things that you would hear in an Afro Man song.
Was there a part about her wanting to bang a Jamaican in a barn?
Oh no, there is a part about that. Yeah, we didn't cover it. There's a Jamaican mentioned here.
I don't remember that part. I would have brought it up.
Yeah, Jamaican. It's in here somewhere.
Because I don't have a note. I don't have a number for that, but I must
there's a postscript where I think she talks about wanting to be with him. That or it's in a different book. There's no Jamaicans only mentioned once. There is a story about her wanting to like go off and be with a guy when she talks about her hatred of being white, but also that she just doesn't like being she just doesn't like heterosexual sex. And then she talks a lot about femicide in Canada and how Christians are evil because of how we are. And so, and she does call herself pro-life and she loves living. But in order to serve the living, you have to kill children.
Yeah, I think you need to read this book after having read her autobiography because you get glimpses of her life. But I think if you want to read this, you need to know about the father. Like, what's the story there? What's the story with the mother? she can't just be a character to use in your feminist diatribes.
Yeah,
I need to
and
know
I mean,
where
I know that
coming
she
from.
goes after the Catholic priest scandal in the early 2000s, but like, she is she says that we live in a culture that molests and rapes its children, but it's just like you groomed a 7-year-old and you were also playing with yourself and other girls at the same age. If anything, you perpetuate that claim.
Like, bitch, you're a rapist. bitch. Actually,
Also,
you're a
I will say
rapist.
this: all of her ex-lovers that are men, who are biologically men that she has been intimate with, all of them have been abused or molested as adults and or children.
What's up with these molested people molesting each other?
Yeah.
I don't got time for that. You always
So
say
again,
that? You say that? I say spare me the details. You always say to that? See, take a fucking hike, buddy. Go on with that. Take that shit down the road. Take that shit on the road.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you see all of this about the culture of whiteness along postscript and why she did it. She's like, pointlessness is my biggest enemy. Boy, I can say the same, and your book was definitely part of it. But overall, all these things that we have here to deal with is that we have she then talked about the media outlets, how big. There's only like 10 media corporations in 1998 that tell us everything. It's all propaganda. And that my only addition to the book, of course, this is the second edition, is just that young people aren't the only ones who are powerful. It's including older women like her. Please read Freedom Dreams, and we should also engage ourselves to fight against neo-fascism. That's it.
There's just
It's just a call to action in the updated edition.
Yeah, just we need to do this to fight fascism. Just like non-committal, ill-defined. This is how we get Trump. Trump is a fascist, and we need to lick each other's clams for that or against that, whichever. Oh, I love women who have this grand mystical strategy to accomplish nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of fluff. It's a lot of pomp. And it's like, do you ever forget lesbians exist? I do. For most of the year, there might be like maybe 2 days a year you remember lesbians exist.
I do if I'm ever in like an airport or a major metropolitan area.
What are profoundly unserious people? But they have too much control. They seem like they're in control of a lot.
They're an entertaining bunch.
I wonder if Jews have an interest in them. We should ask them.
Well, we can find out next week.
All right. We got to get going, guys. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the good comments. Thank you for bearing with us. And we'll see you all next